There's an odd combination of the intellectual and the practical in Virgo that is sometimes mistaken for coolness. In fact, Virgos are often self-effacing and shy. They'll brush off your compliments quickly and, sometimes, critically, but don't let that fool you. They need your respect and appreciation. In fact, the happiest Virgos are the ones who feel appreciated and valued. Add plenty of worthwhile projects to keep them busy, and Virgos can be some of the sweetest, kindest people around. Keywords: analytical, intelligent, reserved, critical, helpful, conscientious. Virgo with ascendant Pisces. Sun in 7, the Sun is in the 7th house. Clark takes pride in his ability to negotiate and establish harmony in his relationships. It is important to Clark to have a partner. Clark feels incomplete without one. He is motivated to become well-liked and is especially sensitive to rejection. One of the lessons in his life is to avoid putting harmony and others' opinions of himself above his own needs. Key points: Clark strives for balance and harmony. He is quick to see unfairness and inequity. A master of the art of giving and receiving, Clark is a true partner. 125 trine between the Sun and Uranus. It's natural for Clark to question tradition. Clark, above all things, is an individualist. Clark naturally rebels against that which is established. It doesn't mean that Clark consistently breaks all the rules, but he does question some of them, especially those that don't make much sense. Clark surprisingly possesses a huge distaste for routine. Clark works best when Clark has some say as to when and how things get done. Clark possesses self-integrity. He avoids labeling people and is most offended when others attempt to label or stereotype him. Clark easily embraces new ways of doing things, sticks up for the underdog, and expresses himself in unique and inspiring ways. Clark doesn't have to try to stand out as unique. Clark is original, creative, and progressive without trying. Far from pretentious, Clark values honesty and truth and avoids putting on airs. Clark believes in equality and easily relates to people from all walks of life. Clark possesses an unmistakable enthusiasm, and generally, his life is interesting because Clark invites unusual or adventurous experiences into his world. Others appreciate Clark because he's open-minded, fair, and not judgmental. Nothing really seems to faze him. Clark takes things in stride and is rarely shocked or taken aback by human behavior. Key traits: Clark is magnetic, intuitive, inventive, unique, and innovative, always seeing where improvements and progress can be made. He is at his best when he feels free to be himself. He doesn't like to be told what to do. 22 trine between the Sun and Neptune. There is an unmistakably dreamy, inspired, and sensitive side to Clark. A marked appreciation for music and the arts is present. The connection of Neptune with the Sun, which represents the ego and the will, certainly softens some of the hard edges that might be found elsewhere in the chart, adding a sensitive and spiritual dimension to his personality. Clark's naturally compassionate. It is so completely natural for him to accept that there is more to the world than what's before his eyes that Clark absent-mindedly presumes everyone must be spiritually inclined. Of course, Clark eventually realizes that this is not the case at some early point in his life. Clark's attraction to spirituality and metaphysical subjects is usually marked. This aspect favors writers, artists, and musicians. Clark is sensitive to those suffering, although Clark is not usually taken advantage of. Clark is a humanitarian and may have a special connection with animals. If other aspects and positions in the chart support it, Clark is not one to dominate others or assert himself to the point of brashness. Clark has a fertile imagination, full of inspiration, and can be very emotional, all qualities Clark uses successfully on the professional level. Key traits: Clark is naturally and genuinely empathetic, compassionate, and intuitive. His observations and insights are unique and fascinating, making him an original and helpful guide. He has a gentle nature that picks up on subtle cues from his environment. -63 square between the Sun and Lilith. Clark has a self-destructive side to him that should be managed by confronting his fears. He might worry about a friend betraying him, although others find this person charming. -122 opposition between the Sun and Ascendant. He may face conflicts in life due to a projection of character that does not match what is on the inside. Misrepresentation of the self can be frequent. He must strive to understand how others perceive him and work on presenting a more accurate persona to the world, or he will rub people the wrong way or feel unrecognized and misunderstood. The Moon. The Moon represents the emotional responses, unconscious predestination, and the self-image. The Moon represents the emotions, and the Moon sign shows how a person expresses themselves when at home, at ease, and comfortable. The Moon is in Sagittarius. More than anything, lunar Sagittarians need personal freedom and space. They are extraordinarily happy and easygoing folk as long as they don't feel caged and are cooped up. Lunar Sagittarians have a simultaneous need for activity. Meeting new people, going out in the world, or traveling are all important to their well-being. They love open spaces and, in their homes, a roomy and bright environment. There's a bit of a teacher in Moon in Sagittarius, and definitely a helpful spirit. They easily forget appointments or veer from their schedules, and some are even considered irresponsible. However, it is hard to stay angry at a lunar Sagittarian. They are just too cheerful and upbeat, and their optimism is catchy. Many people with this position are outdoorsy. At the very least, they have a great love for friendly competition. When the going gets tough, these people get moving. They don't like to be caught up in routine for too long, and they need frequent escapes. There's a blind faith in lunar Sagittarians that is admirable. They believe that everything will ultimately work out. Not much for making detailed plans. People with Moon in Sagittarius prefer to wing it and deal with whatever comes their way when it comes. They're very adaptable and generally on the go. Those with a Sagittarius Moon strive for personal freedom, space, happiness, truth, and activity. Meeting new people or learning new things is emotionally refreshing. Even with well-laid plans, Moon in Sagittarius often ends up veering from the course. Short description. Clark likes to throw himself into the unknown and into adventure. He is agile, tough, and enthusiastic. Attracted to long voyages or discovering the unknown, having a need for escape or flight and room for spontaneity. Potential issues. May take great risks in throwing himself into the unknown. Audacious, bold, and rebellious. Unable to stay in one place, always ready to risk everything to achieve his goal. Moon in Ix. The moon is in the 9th house. Clark is highly imaginative, prolonged studies, intuitive, professionally successful abroad, in import-export, contact with foreigners, long journeys, ability to learn foreign languages. This is a position that can indicate a deep longing for stimulation above and beyond the everyday, mundane routine. Clark's a philosophical sort, interested and curious about the world, other people, and perhaps different cultures. Clark can be extremely restless and discontented if he doesn't have a definite goal in mind. Clark might find himself longing to be somewhere else when unhappy, imagining that if Clark were to move or travel, he would be much happier. However, this attitude can only keep him from enjoying and improving upon the situation he's now in, only serving to make him feel more unhappy in the present and with his current circumstances. Trying to avoid the attitude that the grass is greener on the other side will be important, while attending to his needs to get away from time to time will help scratch the seemingly incurable itch for something more. 48 Trine between the moon and Venus. Clark is generally amiable and project a soft and yielding manner. Clark possesses natural charm and is highly imaginative and sympathetic. Clark can make an excellent mediator and go-between. Clark is keenly aware of his need for relationships and intimacy. Clark has a well-developed respect for qualities typically associated with the feminine. People appreciate Clark for his tender heart and friendly, diplomatic disposition. Clark enjoys a good measure of personal popularity and success in life. Although generally considered lucky with relationships and with money, this is less about luck than it is about a certain level of inner peace and positive energy that attracts pleasant situations. At times Clark can be complacent, or downright lazy. However, Clark is a peacemaker at heart and has an unusual ability to help and heal others. Clark is gracious, warm, sweet, usually happy. He especially enjoys pleasure and entertainment, and the arts. He needs tenderness. He appreciates home life in a comfortable, safe atmosphere more than most. 11 Conjunction between the moon and Lilith. This aspect favors romantic and sexual relationships, giving charm, intrigue, and intelligence. Emotions are big, dark, and mysterious, but he embraces these things, instinctively understanding and accepting the many sides and complications of his feelings. 277 Conjunction between the moon and midheaven. Clark has a strong sense of family, profound feelings, and may especially like children and animals. If there are changes in his professional life, they are most often for the better. There is a sense of forward movement, popularity with those in authority or in the professional life. Ascendant is Pisces. Go with the flow, seems to be a Pisces rising motto. They move about the world in a vaguely directionless, gentle manner. They come across as artists and lovers of peace, but their open minds and hearts can give them a chameleon-like persona. Others are not always sure who they'll meet from one day to the next with a Pisces rising person. Although often quiet and shy, another day may find them talkative and passionate. They are hugely impressionable, have a dreamy disposition, and project a soft-hearted personality. Pisces rising sees the world the way they want to see it at any given time, so objectivity is not necessarily a strong point. Neither is decision-making. People with Pisces rising resist any kind of labeling. Their characters are changeable, and they don't want to be pinned down or pegged in any way. Theirs is a restless, searching nature that cannot be happy with any one way of living or being. Pisces rising avoids cold, hard facts and harsh realities like the plague. They don't have a decisive plan for tomorrow or even today, preferring to keep things open. Since they change their minds frequently enough, and like to feel their way through life, too much organization or structure can be seen as very limiting. Pisces rising people walk around with their heads in the clouds, and even when you do have their attention, their dreaminess is almost always apparent. These people look for a stable partnership, one that is reliable. Pisces rising people gravitate to partners who keep them on their toes, and they often will pass off the little details and reality checks to their significant other. They seem to need a practical, realistic partner. Pisces ascendants often have a sensitivity to drugs, and sometimes are prone to allergies that come and go. Their physical constitutions seem to be less resistant than most. Pisces rising people often possess an irresistible charm that comes on in a quiet way, with a soft aura about them. Both their appearance and mannerisms are usually quite intriguing to others. House 2, the second house, is the area of material security and values. It rules money and personal finances, sense of self-worth and basic values, personal possessions. Aries on House 2. Financial success is more likely when he uses his entrepreneurial spirit. However, impulsive spending is likely. Won't ask for money, preferring to be self-made, and usually doesn't receive much financial help. Where Mars is placed in the chart can show where money can be made. House 3, the third house, is the area of social and intellectual learning. Taurus on House 3. One is never better than when at home. Not much traveling or taking on of a sudden or unexamined initiative. When travel occurs, it is to comfortable and familiar areas. Everything is calculated and deliberate. The motto is, slowly but surely. House IV, the fourth house, is the area of home, family, roots, and deep emotions, sense of self-worth. Gemini on House IV. Can find it impossible to stay in one place, frequently changing homes themselves or changing things up in the home environment. If the job is monotonous, he is usually restless, perhaps changing firms frequently or requiring a lot of stimulation on the job. The ideal profession would be one offering a lot of change, moving around, meeting lots of new people. An equally erratic love life is usually expected. House B, the 5th house, is the area of creative self-expression, romance, entertainment, children, and gambling. Cancer on House B. He may often be in love, up until the day he meets someone special. He is not a gambler, by any means. He is safe in a casino. Can take great pleasure in home life. Hobbies may be cooking, sewing, and other Cancer-related pastimes. Very affectionate lover, but private and sensitive. House B, the 6th house, is the area of learning by material transaction. Cancer on House B. Good in jobs and contact with the public. Weak point, the stomach. House 7, the 7th house, is the area of one-to-one relationships such as marriage and partnership, and of social and intellectual action. Virgo on House 7. Partnership perhaps more of the head than the heart, which can last in spite of a few hiccups. The partner is usually honest, hardworking, organized, intelligent, and cunning. Scorpio on House 6. He likes long voyages, especially by sea. Might participate in regattas, enjoying risk, sport. House X, the 10th house, is the area of material action. The midheaven represents the work one will do in one's life, the place one will take in the world of society. It becomes more important as one grows older. Sagittarius on House X. Job involving travel, especially abroad, and if possible with some risk, creativity, adventure is attached. House 11, the 11th house, is the area of search for social and intellectual security. Capricorn on House 11. Stable friendships with composed, wise people, from whose experience of life benefits and enriches his own life. House 12, the 12th house, is the area of education and of emotion. This is where we meet our karma, deal with endings, and sometimes where we bury things. Capricorn on House 12. Disappointments are difficult to digest, the bitterness can last a long time before he is able to react positively.